When I started to study, finance, and I hated it. I hated it, and I tried to find some area in that degree program where I could actually do something exciting, and it looked like I found that real estate fell into finance, which was really kind of an interesting thing. So it kind of got me into designing or into the actual housing industry and that kind of stuff. But I wasn't really going very far with it. I was really young at the time, and when I was young, I looked really young. And so I did a little bit of a few things, and then I decided that I wanted to do some traveling. So I joined the army. Can you believe that? I was in the army for 3.5 years. One of the reasons I did it is because it helps you, allows you to travel around the world. I would say that Ricardo has a really keen mind when it comes to theory, right? And that being the field that the field that I research, the field that I do most of my presentations off of, any of the things that I've done in the past have to do with theory, and his mind is really, really, really seems to understand it. And he's been an educator for a very, very long time, and his ability to communicate and how he communicates his thoughts are really an excellent. Ruth Beals is a little different. She is instrumental in helping me organize how I present myself on paper, basically. How I strategize my resumes, and how I present my work, that kind of thing. And she's exceptionally good at those types of things. She was also the regional chair. And she just sort of said, "Come on, let me help you out. I'll do it. We'll do it whatever I can. Let if you need anything, just reach out to me." And so she became a really good friend and mentor, basically.
How does it feel to be her mentor?
It feels fantastic because it feels better for me to mentor than to be mentored. And for me, it's better about giving rather than receiving, right? What I can do for somebody else to help further their career, what I can do for other people to help further their education, I will do. That's just the person that I am, and I get more enjoyment seeing other people succeed. I think the most important thing is, if you're going to lead, you need to lead by example, right? You need to show people what is actually possible. You need to actually be out there doing the work, right? And so being a mentor, right, is really about being the leader, showing people what it is they can accomplish and how they can accomplish it, right? And I think that that's really the connection that you have between leadership and mentors, right? In Nuremberg, Germany for 2 years, and that was probably one of the most inspirational places that I'd ever been. And that it's just looking at the architecture, the historical nature of it, and just how people live there was really fascinating to me. So when I came out of the military, I wanted to do something, and I just didn't know what. I was still sort of vacillating on where I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and I knew I wanted to do something artistic, so I ended up at the Art Institute of Colorado, or the Colorado Institute of Art, and I started interior design, and I was just like amazed. It was just like I felt like that's where I belonged, right? I started working, and when I finished, I started working in Miami, and a year later, I took a job in New York City as a lighting designer. So I relocated to New York City. So I lived in New York City for like 7 years, something like that, 10 years. No, I lived there for 10 years. I was a designer, lighting designer most of the time. I worked for engineering firms, so I have a little bit of engineering background knowledge, lighting, electrical, plumbing, MEP stuff. And then we moved back to Austin from there. And when I got to Austin, maybe I'd been in the engineering field a little longer than I probably should have been, and I was feeling uninspired. And when I went back to graduate school is when I actually started to realize that maybe the teaching industry was kind of a little bit better for me. Periods of time before that, I had my own firm. I did do residential design for a very long time independently. During the pandemic, I stayed home pretty much that period, the earlier part. And then somewhere around that time, at the end of the initial phase, Converse University called me and asked me if I wanted to apply for this position, because the chair, or the program coordinator here, was one of my mentors from IDEC. So she's one of my mentors, right? So she actually is instrumental in me getting this position that I have now. Her name is Ruth Beals. She was another thing. She was also IDEC chair. She was also the South Regional chair when I joined IDEC back in 2013. So she sort of pretty much took me under her wing. I was still a student at the time. And then years later, when she retired, is when she said, you know, I want you to come. And I was thinking, oh, I don't know. I'm living in Miami. Why do I want to go to Spartanburg? Oh no, I'm living in Atlanta. Why do I want to go to Spartanburg? But as it turns out, it turned out to be really pretty good. And Ruth was also one of my advisors because at the Art Institute, at the Miami International University of Art and Design is where I got my graduate degree or my master's of interior design, my MFA. I don't know, one of my advisors was laid off. And so I was down one and there was nobody else who really was willing to do it. But they allow you to take one person outside of the university as an advisor if you want to. And Ruth Beals, you know, agreed to be one of my advisors. So that was really good. Another one of my mentors that have been supporting me almost from the beginning is Ricardo Navarro. He is the graduate coordinator at SCAD Atlanta right now. And actually he was at the SCAD conference and we were there. He was my major advisor. He's also been instrumental in me becoming a CETA site visitor. A whole bunch of other things, and I sort of I kind of look up to him for almost a lot of things. He was the chair at the time when I was at school at the Miami International University of Art and Design. So those two have been instrumental in where I am today.